Hello and welcome to the Brass Junkies. I'm your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my co-host, Lance LaDuke. This is a serious episode, Lance. How are you? How about that? I'm overwhelmed. Crazy stuff.
I was awestruck before and more so now.
I mean, I'm used to being awestruck because I'm awestruck by you each and every episode.
Makes sense.
But David Taylor, he's an actual legend, and we just got to talk to him. And he's a man. They don't make dudes like that anymore. They just don't make people like that anymore. He's wonderful. I felt like I knew him well 5 minutes into the interview.
I did too.
We had corresponded before, but just electronically, and I felt like I knew him well 5 minutes in. And I have a feeling that everyone who talks to him feels like they know him 5 minutes in. Julie Landsman is another one that comes to mind. The first time I ever spoke with her, I feel like they don't make people like her anymore either. It's just felt like I knew her, and I've had a lot more contact with her since, and I did actually know her 5 minutes into the conversation. It's only bared out that was true. So, speaking of true. And of truth, I wanted to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model euphonium mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
I just found out this is the end you blow in. I've been doing it wrong.
Oh, there you have it. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have started doing some short videos, like extracting quotes from, that are like some real high protein or extra engaging quotes. So subscribe to check those out.
Funny.
The funny.
I like the Morse code one.
Yeah, there's some good ones. We started with Michael Sachs because he was recent as we're recording this, and we've just kind of kept going. So check that out, our YouTube channel. And also, last announcement before we get to the brilliant David Taylor, is that we have a store. It just launched, petalomedia.com/store. For the entire month of August, we are donating 100% of our profits to Cancer Blows. And we are going to choose another store for September. We're going to choose another store. We're going to donate all of our profits to Walmart in September. So no, that's not what's going to happen. Another charity, but the amazing Ryan Anthony's charity, Cancer Blows. And there's some cool Brass Junkie stuff. There's some entrepreneurial musician stuff. There's some Petalo Media stuff. So go check it out. A lot of it's from our brilliant graphic designer and partner here at Petalo Media, Will Houchin. So go ahead, check that out, petalomedia.com/store. And without further ado, let us get to this unbelievable conversation that we had with trombone/low brass legend David Taylor.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content by the Brass Junkies, just click on the like and subscribe button. You'll have an opportunity to see some of the greatest brass players in the world, and Andrew and me.
And today on the Brass Junkies, we've got a legit legend. This is I'm going to start this interview how you're not supposed to start interviews, because I literally have no idea where the hell to start with this guy. I don't know where to start. His name is David Taylor.
I'm no longer embarrassed by people bragging about me, because you can go right on.
That's right. Yeah.
Time magazine called him one of the 10 most important humans of the 20th century.
9.
He was number 9.
That's right. Well, who's counting?
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be a fun one, I can tell. But
you're going to let me get serious, right?
Yeah.
I'm not all fun, I'm a serious musician here, brother.
He's not just a trombone artist. He's an artist. He's not just a trombone operator. So
that's true.
But no, all joking aside, I mean, Lance and I were talking beforehand because we were, going over exactly. I mean, your reputation precedes you in a number of ways, but but in terms of who you played with, I mean, there's a very short list of brass players who have had as wide of a range of experiences as you have as a professional. Was that Was that always your plan, like when you were younger, or did that just kind of come about?
No, I went to Juilliard because I had no other interests. I auditioned for Manhattan School and Juilliard. I went to Juilliard because my teacher was there. I had no idea what kind of music to play. They wouldn't let me into a chamber program because I had no experience. They wouldn't let me in a theory class. I didn't even know why they took me. I guess I had a good sound on the I was a tenor when I went in there. And so I immediately went to the street and just got my experience from community orchestras at first. And but I had no plan. And I was married while I was getting my master's degree. So basically, I guess my concern was if you paid me, I'd play. I mean, I played for free too, but the emphasis was I had to make a buck. I had a kid 6 months after I got out. Kids don't want to hear about your aesthetic. They want to hear about where's my Cheerios, that kind of stuff. So I really had to earn. But I was a practicer. I practiced day and night, so.
Well, and I understand that it came out of necessity, but it was from the outside looking in, it was a very omnivorous musical selection. So, were you always kind of musically curious?
Well, I started off on trumpet in junior high school. Mr. Saslow, I kind of lucked out. I was in school in the 6th grade at the day they gave the musical aptitude test. So Mr. Saslow put everybody on trumpet, but he needed a tuba player for his orchestra. And I was the shortest kid in the class, so he comes out about a month later with this thing and says, "Who thinks they're big enough to play this bright, shiny tuba?" Of course, I was a little cat, you know what I mean? I was really the little cat in the class. So I immediately had to learn how to play tuba, and I love the tuba. I don't pick it up now because it's just a pain in the ass to pick it up, but...
Right?
Really?
We'd argue if we disagreed.
But I love the tuba. So I played tuba in junior high and first 3 years in high school. And whenever my mother or father couldn't get me home with the tuba, I played my kid brother's trombone in the house. So when I was a senior in high school, I kind of took it up as a regular thing and started playing in high school. But I really didn't know anything more than kind of tuba reading, that kind of thing. So I was when you say omnivorous, it had to be. Mm-hmm. Because, we came from no money. By the time I did my first gig, I was making more money than my father, that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
And Pop broke his ass to get me into I didn't get a scholarship or anything. At that time, Juilliard was like $1,700 a year. And if you can imagine, and that was a stretch for him, man. Big stretch,
Wow.
Laborer, great guy. God, loved my father.
Well, and so then you play all these different styles. It's not everybody that can swim in all of the waters. And so,
I don't think of it that way.
Okay, how do you think of it? What's it?
Climb into the sound around you.
Ah, okay. And did that come natural to you, or did that?
Well, I don't know. I started playing in orchestras on tenor, community orchestras, and I went to the Music Academy of the West one summer. And when I got back from the Music Academy of the West, one of my friends got me a gig with the Liederkranz Society Orchestra, but I had to play third trombone. So I borrowed a bass trombone from Juilliard. And within 6 or 8 months of that, man, I was playing major gigs. I don't know how it just went zip, man. I guess it was the tuba vibe.
Oh,
and I taught myself how to read. Every morning I get to Juilliard as soon as the building opened, which was maybe 7:30. So I'm whenever the hell it opened, and I would just read and check out my sound, and I would take piano books and read the left hand. And if I got to a point where there was an arpeggio in the left hand, I would kind of arpeggiate and not worry about keeping the time going, that kind of a thing. Clarinet books, violin books, add 3 flats, that kind of thing. The Saxa book, the trumpet book, Schlossberg book. I used to play out of the Schlossberg book a little.
It's funny. I feel like a lot of young musicians don't understand that reading is just like. It sounds stupid to say this sentence. Reading is just like reading. Reading music is just like reading words, and the repetition you are able to, in reading. If you learn to speed read, you're taking in more information across a line in a shorter amount of time. And the more you do that with music as well, then the more information you can take in, and then you can go back to here. You don't have to be stuck here.
Well, it's amazing. I read a lot, but I really can't comprehend as much reading as I can reading music. Somehow I can comprehend the continuum or reading music. I really have to go back on a page. You know, I mean, I have to know every word and see the ramification and abstraction and stuff like that.
What would you consider your first sort of big break or a thing that kind of puts you on the map in a bigger way?
Probably Leopold Stokowski. I played his orchestra for a couple of years until he died, and then all hell broke loose. You know how that works politically and stuff like that, because it was a freelance orchestra. And that was my big break. The other big break was, believe it or not, Juilliard had a fraternity when Phi Mu Alpha, the Symphony. And we decided, because we were goofing around, we decided to have a fraternity, so they made me president of the chapter, and we had a fellow named there, Andy Seligson, a tuba player. And his father had a salsa truck, so I made him the official salsa man of the chapter. And but Andy, the reason I'm bringing this up is Andy was doing freelance stuff, and he said, "Hey, there's this guy Alan Raff who's looking for a sub, but you have to double tuba." And Andy knew I double tuba. Why don't you give him a call? That one phone call opened up every area for me besides the orchestral or brass quintet area.
Wow.
And I devoted myself to subbing for that man, a wonderful player, and it was very loyal to me. I did everything, and so my first other big break was probably playing in a Broadway show when I was 20, 21, doubling on tuba. It was interesting, man. The conductor, I was the kid, you know. The conductor was always looking at me. I figured maybe because I was the kid. But then I realized he had like a roving eye. So one eye was always looking that way. So his eye was just happened to be where I was sitting, you know. But it didn't make me nervous. And I did well. And he started sending me in for subs for his big band things that he did and all of that. So that was my introduction to that. I was not... The first major big band I played in, Bill Watrous and Wayne Andre and Garnett Brown. I don't know if you know those other two names. And Bill, they were the trombone section. I just threw myself to mercy to court, man. I said, "Hey, look, I don't know what I'm doing here, cats." And they did. And I picked it up fairly well. And because I was an outside, I'm telling you all these weird things. I don't want you to think I'm being. I've always felt like I was an outsider, really, because it worked well for me because I developed my own viewpoint on style.
Oh, I see.
And things like that. And my whole thing about style was not necessarily reading exactly what was on the page. I just wanted to be an emotional, say something, you know.
Contribute.
Right. So I allowed myself to fail, but just a natural thing. I have no choice, kind of, you know. I fail. And the bands that were really making music pulled me in because they heard, because the real bands, they want you to be just that, you know. And I guess it used to be the real orchestras wanted that too. I know a good friend of mine, Daniel Schneider, very good composer, and we've been working together for about 30 years. Somebody asked us, what's our favorite orchestra? And mine went back to all kinds of, you know, of course, the Chicago back when and the Scottish back when and all of that. His was Karajan's Berlin Philharmonic because everyone sounded like a soloist in that orchestra.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, I'm good friends with like Nitzan Horowitz and those cats. And they pull me down to listen, or Phil Myers used to pull me in all the time, listen to the band and stuff. I go for like in the Philly, used to be the oboe player was kick ass, man. I forget his name. I'm so sorry, but those were the guys I related to. I don't know how I got here, man. Pull me out of this.
No.
This is perfect.
Well, what you just said in the last 5 minutes, we could do follow-up questions on that and easily fill the entire hour with fascinating stuff. I want to go, like you just dropped it, like Watrous was in the first big band section you ever played, and it's like, wait, what? But I want to go.
No, I didn't say the first big band section. The first of character. It was Chuck Israel. It was Chuck Israel's band. I was playing in a lot of other local big bands, and I even paid money to this guy Lynn Oliver, who had a studio up on Broadway where you learned how to sight read in big band show. I really went after it. I never thought of myself as omnivorous. I will tell you this though, man. People go up to literary guys who write about me and stuff like that, and they say, "What kind of guy is Taylor? He thinks things through." He said, "No, man. Taylor's an animal. He just
Instinctual.
instinctual. I really have to feel I go by gut. There are a couple of times, more than a couple of times. I'm in the business almost 55, 60 years, something like that, So there are times, but it's mainly where I'm loved. That's where I go.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, so Andrew, you want to dig into Stokowski some more?
Yeah, I mean, can you talk about the American Symphony Orchestra a little bit, because it's such a it's such a historic
I was there.
ensemble.
I was there in the '60s, and it was me. Was I? Per Brevig, Doug Edelman, Mildred Kemp, Early Anderson would play for a while. I was very friendly with Gerard Schwartz. We used to play duos together, trumpet duos, Bach and stuff like that. Oh man, Soloff and I were like buddies, and so he used to introduce me to the Chicago. The cats in Chicago loved him. I'm going back to the old cats, so I used to go hang with those cats. And I remember, man, when I was around 24 years old, I called up Bud Herseth and said, "Man, I would love to do a duo Bach record with him." And he was gracious. He was so great. He really didn't know me except for a couple of times, but he was so sweet, man. He said, "Well, I'm not," that kind of thing, man. Figure why not? Call Bud Herseth, man. What the hell? Yeah, right. Alan Rubin on his deathbed, a day before I don't know if you know who he is. He was Mr. Fabulous, trumpet player in the Blues Brothers, and he and I were roommates for a while. Yeah,
sure.
Right. Man, he was a day from Soloff said, "Hey, Dave, you got to come up because this is it." So I went in, sat on his bed. He showed me pictures he was looking at of Bud Herseth's embouchure. Check that out, man. He was sitting on his bed. Bud Herseth had those practice rings
that
and
book thing. Yeah.
Hey, Dave, check this out, man.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
That's
man.
crazy.
I'm non sequitur, baby. Go ahead. Let's go. Let's go. Stay with the program.
All good.
No,
Right. Okay.
So,
Okay,
I just want to correct you with one thing. We don't have a program to get back to. So this is
okay,
just like
good.
our whole brand is just like hanging out with
Freeform.
people, and it's like, this is
All right.
this is fascinating. It's great. Lance, go.
So, one of the other things that you are not taking credit for right now is the fact that, if you were a jerk,
I am.
If you were a bigger jerk, you wouldn't have gotten the gigs that you got. I mean, there's some part of it about.
Wow, that you said that. That's the only way I know I'm a pretty good player, because I'm working in New York for 60 years.
Right.
So that's the only way I know I'm a good player. I don't know if I'm a jerk or not, but I know that you can't live in New York for 60 years playing solos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides freelance stuff.
Well, people
so
don't
I
wanna
know
work
that I'm
with
not
you if you're difficult. I mean, not difficult, because difficult.
I am difficult.
Difficult's fine, because difficult means you have an idea and an opinion. There's a thing. We're going to do a thing. We're not, pussyfooting around. But we're not. I don't know the last time I used the term pussyfooting around, but there it is. I've done it twice.
Oh, baby,
So,
you better be careful.
I'm also pull up. So anyway,
But
that's
you're talking about kitty cats. Actually, that's
Yeah,
a direct
exactly.
reference to kitty cats. Right.
for sure. So you that's what you want, is you bring a musical opinion, and then you're going to have just that you own it. Well, then
Wasn't conscious most of the time, man.
Well, so
It's
did
conscious when I'm rehearsing with a bunch of cats. Then it's conscious. But on a freelance gig,
just
I
go.
I try to bring quality, but you have to be smart.
Yeah. That's interesting, man.
Well, no, I mean, it's like even now, like I'm doing a Beatles record with some of the cats who play with John Lennon Friday. I just got called 10 minutes before you called to do ESPN spots later on this summer. So you can't. People can know you, but they have to know that you know when to stand up and solo and when not to.
Right.
And I know when to stand up and when not to.
And do you feel like you always had that, or you grew into it?
I don't know. Maybe one day I'll know.
Yeah. But I mean, you had early success that begat more success. So
My feeling was I had early success because I was lucky to be around when the double valve bass trombone became a real thing. In the mid '60s, I mean, they were fooling around with it for about 10 years, but in the mid '60s, it became a thing, and the repertoire and usage exponentially increased with that second valve. So I was lucky to be around that and to take advantage of it.
I see.
So yeah, I was playing in a brass quintet with Ronnie Rahm. We had a brass quintet at Juilliard. We called ourselves the New York Brass Society. We did a couple of records. Garrett List, who just passed away, Bob Cernak, who was the personal manager of the Met, and David Jolly, fantastic French horn. We were a good group, man.
Yeah, you were.
You know that Gould and I finally are finalizing this all Ewald brass quintet record that it's like weeks away from being done after 10 years, man.
Really?
Wow.
It's Gould, Louis Hanslick from the American Brass
He's
Quintet,
wonderful.
Tim Albright, and Chris Coma.
Huh.
And we recorded it, but we could never get it out. But now it's being mastered, and it's going to finally get out.
Are you guys putting it out, or is it coming out through somebody?
No, we're just going to put it up and give it away for free.
There you go.
There you go.
We want the students to hear it.
And then what? Let's super nerd out here. Did you do your own version or your own editions, or what editions did you use?
I don't know how to play editions.
Oh.
So, in fact, I teach my students, do those editors know more than you?
Yeah.
And then very often they don't. So I kind of just play. I mean, I don't even look who edited it.
Yeah.
Probably Palafian had a hand in it. I don't know.
He was
Those
a hack.
guys, probably, I mean, I don't know, man. I just...
Well,
I wish we. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Well, sticking with the chamber thing for a minute, we had Julie Landsman on. I don't know, I can't remember how long ago it was, but she talks about, if memory serves, she said that you were in a trio with her and Gould.
That's right. We had a. Oh, she remembered that. Wow, I didn't think she'd remember. We had a trio.
She said it took years of therapy for her to try and.
She's trying to forget.
You're not going to believe this, but just within the last couple of weeks, Sergei Nakaryakov and Elias Fingers and I started a trio.
Whoa.
And we're Sergei's a pretty good player.
He's decent.
He might turn out.
And we're calling ourselves Kopfkino. It's a German thing. Kopfhead Kino movie, so it's kind of brain dreams or head dreams. Kopfkino. And we're thinking of a logo right now, and we're gathering material.
Wow.
Elias is very much into performance, as I'm getting much more into performance. So we'll work it out. We'll do the. Yes, I'm thinking about trios, man. So I'm always pushing forward, dudes. Come
That's
on,
right. Well,
get with it.
So
right.
let's pick it up right there. So when recently we had Thomas Gonch on, and we were talking about it before the show. And if you go to Gonch's
say that whole phrase. You had Gonch on, and he was what?
We were talking about it before the show. The three of us were talking about it before the show.
Okay.
But if you go to Gonch's page, you see there's all these projects that he's involved with, and it strikes me that my guess or my hunch is that you have a menu of projects that you're involved with.
I do. I have.
What's on the front burner?
Well, right now I'm finishing this record with Gould, and I just finished a guitar duo record with a guy named Gene Pritzker, a very good composer. He's, besides everything else creatively, he does the movie does the TV show Berlin Babylon, and major motion pictures, Perfume, and all that kind of stuff. And we just we wrote things for each other. I'm in the process. Oh wow, this is like a Dave Taylor itinerary. Sorry, Cass, but you asked, so I'm going to go for it, man.
I want to know.
Like today, I'm writing a 20-minute piece for voice, bassoon, and bass trombone that will be done September 3rd, 4th, and 5th at a place called Barge Music. Barge Music is very good to me, man. I mean, they for the last 6 or 7 years. I mean, I've written two is there such a thing as an album anymore? 2 something or others. Of 60 minutes length of all my, I wrote like 5 concerti for myself, and I play them and I recorded them. And let me see what else. Nitsan Hirotsu and I are thinking of a duo record now. I have a new CD coming out, and I found a piece. Eric Ewazen and I are pretty good friends. And
he's awesome.
I found something he wrote for me 40 years ago with Charlie Small. I don't know if you know the name Charlie Small. Tenor trombone player, was a legend here in New York. And I just found it in a storage bin. So I'm going to put that as part of my thing. And I have several other compositions coming, that kind of thing.
Well,
I'll think. I can't even think of all of it. I'll let you know as we go along.
I want to know more about the compositional side and when that all started. But before we do that, Andrew, I keep forgetting to tell you that Houchin Horns aims to spread the joy of music through providing the highest level of products, services, and resources to the brass playing community.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I know David already knows this, but I don't, so continue.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're a premier brass pro shop with an impressive lineup of the best instruments, accessories, sheet music, and more. They stock the finest makes of brass instruments, including Adams, Bach and Conselmer, Eastman, Shires, Engelbert, Schmidt, Paxman, Tyne, and Yamaha, among many others. And that's how you're supposed to say Tyne. I got coached on it. It's you could just say Tyne. But
they sell bass trombones with all the valves.
That's true. Yeah, and by the way, if you enter the promo code Junkies11 at online checkout, you will receive $500 off of your purchase of a new instrument from HouchinHorns.com. Thank you very much, Mark Houchin, for being our newest sponsor to the show. So, Dave Taylor, you started writing from the get-go, or picked it up along the way?
No, I was doing brass quintet arrangements from back in the day with Ryan. A lot of Bach stuff. I play in the Manhattan Brass Quintet now with R.J. Kelly. I don't know if you know that. You cats know R.J. Kelly, French horn. Wayne Demain, trumpet. Tony Catlett, trumpet. He's actually also doing all the overdubs on. He and I run into each other in a lot of different milieux.
Who was the last name? I didn't hear it.
Tony Catlett.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, sure.
So he's in it. Mike Seltzer's a trombone player, and we've done some projects, and we're gearing up again to do.
That's great.
Another thing. Yeah, so still playing big bands, but we haven't, of course, this last year with all this BS going on.
Yeah. Well, and so you started out arranging, then moved on into just writing.
When I was 65, a guy I played for chamber. I'm always into chamber music. Like I was really the go-to trombone player for Lincoln Center Chamber Society for about 25 years. I was playing in mostly Mozart orchestra for about 25 years, but things got, I got older, things got different. So this one group I played with, the Washington Square Chamber Players, they heard me play Schubert. I play a lot of Franz Schubert now. I do my own versions of Schubert. And he said, he came up to me, he said, "Hey, look, man, we're playing the Stravinsky Concerto for Piano in 19 winds. Why don't you write something?" And even how he came to me, I said, "Geez, I don't know what to do." He says, "Don't worry about it. You don't have to write for 19." But of course, I had that option. So I wrote a 20-minute piece, and it was successful, man. I couldn't friggin' believe it, man. It went over. So I started writing over the last 10, 15 years, 10, 12 years. I started writing.
How do you decide what to? You have
I
so
know
many
nothing
opportunities.
about form. I know nothing about harmony. If it appeals to me, there it is. I go over and over and over. Sometimes it's the melody. I improvise and write it down and build from there. Sometimes there's a chord structure I hear. Sometimes there's words. Sometimes I'm not good. I just
I'm not good. I'm prolific.
Right.
You just wow them with quantity.
I'm like a great Greek restaurant, man. You go to anything.
Okay,
Greek diner. I mean Greek diner. Right.
And then
That's not pejorative.
no.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Making me hungry. So,
Yeah.
how do you decide what projects to get involved in? How do you curate? Because we all have the amount of time that we have, and so you got to decide. Well, this is a project worth my time. That's a project not worth my time.
I don't go in terms of not worth my time. I don't know that expression. I know I wake up. If I wake up too early, it doesn't make sense because I can't practice too early in my apartment. As soon as I wake up, I hit it, and it goes. I'm not a very organized man, so it can go on and on and. Like for example, I did an orchestra arrangement of the Schubert Arpeggione Sonata. I don't know if you know the Arpeggione Sonata. Okay, so that's like a 20-minute piece, and I was offered that gig, and even though there were sections of it I couldn't play because the Arpeggione in the middle of it. First of all, it's a string instrument. It was a kind of a viola-ish, guitar-ish, cello-ish. It only lasted for around 10 years. There's one section in that piece that goes, and I couldn't, I couldn't conceive of that. So I researched Schubert. I wanted this gig. I think that was your question. I wanted this gig. So I started reading as many bios of Schubert, because they knew I played Schubert too. So I found as many bios I can get my hands on. Looked at as much of the music. I determined that dance and songs were a major part of his oeuvre. And I also found out from some of the hipper bios that this guy was a carrying honor. I mean, we all know that there's a fancy word for sexual disease. What do they call it? Sexually SDS or something like SD. There's a name for it. Sexually transmitted disease. He died of syphilis at a young age, and this guy was a drinker, a partier. He hung out on the east side of Vienna, which is the Eastern European side, the Eastern European side of Vienna. So he was around all of this kind of crazy stuff. The guy who commissioned the Arpeggione Sonata was a opium cat. You know what I mean? So these cats were wacky. I'm not saying that Schubert did those kind of drugs. There's no documentation of that, but he was a heavy drinker and partier, and so I put two and two together. And I said, well, look, he's on the east. He's hanging out with these these Hungarians and all these Eastern European cats, and his whole thing was dance. So I turned the fast part into a chadish. Instead of going, I went boom, 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 and they flipped. The intellectuals flipped over that. It's funny how these things work out. It was definitely philosophically where I was going, but the reasons for it were that I had to figure out a way to play this piece, and I made an odd string orchestra arrangement. I used harmonics sometimes, made it sound like a glass harmonica in the slow sections. I spent a lot of time on it, and I didn't take it out of the house for 2 years. I practiced it for 2 years because it's about a 20-some-odd minute piece with about 30 measures or 20 measures of rest in the whole piece.
Wow.
So I had to build up not only the, what do you call that when you get
stamina
strong,
or
the stamina,
yeah.
but I had also the concentration.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is where Daniel Schneider's music paid off me, because he wrote us a whole repertoire of trios, which everyone is playing around the world now, and that really, you have to stand up and play for 25 minutes straight without, you can't beat your foot, man. You just go about boom, And I was playing with Kenny Drew Jr., who's a great jazz and classical piano player, now deceased, and Daniel. So there was no time for slouching. So I learned how to negotiate longer material. What was the question?
No, it's. I just got done judging this competition, the first round of this thing. I had to listen to this piece like 50 times.
What piece?
It was called "Flow" by a guy named. I should know it. I listened to it 50
It
times.
don't matter. Keep going.
Don't matter. And one of the things that struck me that happened on a regular basis, I would say the piece was 8 minutes long, is about 6 minute mark. Then many people started losing. You could just tell they just sort of lost their focus. And it's a thing. I don't know how many people, pardon the repetition, but focus on the concentration part. We think about the face part, but not the brain part. And so how do you? I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but is there an intentional way you go about it?
That might have been a secondary thing that happened to me when I was 24 or so. When I got out of Juilliard, I spent 6 years at Juilliard. I got my master's there, and bachelor's and master's. I actually went back for a PhD in philosophy when I was 50 at NYU, but I didn't complete it. I didn't finish it. But when I was 24 around, I had to change my articulation. I knew it, because I was articulating well for kind of brass quintet and kind of orchestra. But when I started getting in these heavy big band situations where you had to lay the time down, I had to have a more concise concept of articulation. So because I'm a creature of habit, and I probably had, besides ADD, probably OCD. Oh, wait a minute. There's something about OCD. It's not that I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm an obsessive compulsive enthusiast. How's that great?
OCE.
Right. So
that's a step further.
Exactly. So, so I started playing very repetitive exercises, and it was murder. I would very simple scales, actually. Articulation, concentrated scale. All I concentrated on was articulation, diaphragm support, and relaxing the embouchure, because I was a stretch guy, so I had to kind of pull it in and forcing my brain to do this for hours on end was one of the ways now, as I see looking backwards, one of the ways I developed a concentration. You have to remember, man, I was so in love with blowing air through a tube all my life that, I just love that, man, blowing air through a pipe, man.
Well, and
I love it, man. I just love it. The simple cellular friggin' act, man. Yeah.
When you just knew there's a thing that needs fixed, I'm just going to go in and it'll.
I needed to be fixed. And what I found was, within 2 or 3 months of playing these crazy repetitive exercises, after 3 minutes I was off the ground. Literally, man. It's like I just shut the door. And I love the repetition. That's why I made the joke about OCE
right.
and all of that. I just loved the repetition, knowing that it was just blowing air. It could have been some kind of ohm.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It could have been. And I think that's where the focus came. I had a hard time with style at the beginning. You have to remember, man, I didn't have a record player in my house till I was around 16. When I went to Juilliard, I didn't even know orchestra rep. I auditioned on the Haydn Trumpet Concerto second movement. It was the slow movement. Da, 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 da. And I guess I faked them out. Vacchiano was there, Gene Tinnis was there, David Houchin was there. I forget who else was there. They took me. I couldn't sight read. They knew that. I guess they liked my sound at the time,
And so the style.
I don't think they would do that now. People,
no,
I'm very lenient when I do audition. Like I work at Manhattan School, the New School, in Madison, NYU. I'm always giving cats a benefit of the doubt, man. If I think you love it, I couldn't give a rat's ass if you can't play. You're in.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age, where if a kid wants to play a brass instrument, that guy's like an astronaut, like an explorer. That's Vasco da Gama is coming. You know what I mean, man? It's like, so he's in. She's in. She is in.
I would always rather teach someone who's curious and enthusiastic and is going to do some equivalent of what you did, which is figure out that they need work on articulation and then just make it happen, than somebody who came with it better than you did coming in the door.
Well, the interesting thing, too, about articulation is that that is the basis of interpretation and style.
Yes.
To develop a language. And you were talking before about the reading and the language and grasping. Articulation, baby. I don't think people are giving enough. It's not legato marcato. It's like the whole spectrum of the protractor, man. It's like, and that's a hard one for the cats. Somehow, this is part of the negativity of our times, I think, that cats have gotten so tunnel vision on certain things, Unless maybe I'm an old man.
Stylistically,
kids today.
Kids
what I mean? I don't want to say kids today, man, but we need some chance takers out there.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes.
Who of a younger generation, let's say, is interesting and exciting to you?
Well, I mean, I'm very good friends with Peter Evans. I don't know if you know who he is, trumpet player, world famous. He must be in his 30s. We were just on the phone. I'm very lucky, man. I'm around all young cats. I mean, guys, I'm in my 70s. Guys my age, a lot of them, they're not pushing forward. And I'm not putting down those cats at all,
Sure.
man. I mean, we've all paid our dues.
Right.
Guys who I find now in their 40s and 50s are so concerned with having to make $1 in this day and age. So I'm even going back further now. Like the two people I'm using on this bassoon and vocal thing are two women in their 20s. They're 25, 26. I'm going to rehearse with them a lot. You know, it's funny, man. Daniel Schneider and I and Kenny Drew were doing some European. We were in Leipzig. This must be 30 years ago, man. And we were standing around after our show. It was an old converted movie theater. You know, the bricks exposed. You know, the beatnik-y kind of thing, man.
Nice.
Wow, beatnik. Wow, I'm dating myself now. Right?
Hepcat.
And it was a movie producer there. And I was heavy into the studio scene back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Luckily, I practiced through it, man. Wow, what a break that was I gave myself. So it was a movie producer there, and we were talking to him about, hey, look, they don't really know the styles of some of the American. He says, doesn't matter. We're paying them so cheaply. We could stay here 3 weeks and they'll get the styles. And I thought of that as almost a negative thing, but it really isn't, man. If somebody wants to be there, they'll be there. I wrote a whole article for Trombone magazine called Be There. That's big. Be there, man. Just get your ass over there. 80% is showing up.
Showing up,
but
right,
would you guys consider yourselves freelance?
Anymore, I'm teaching at Carnegie Mellon, so that's my main gig right now.
Well, did you
Up till
think
then,
of
I
yourself
used
as
to.
freelance
Yeah.
before that?
That was how I self-identify. I was with regular groups and stuff, but that's how I saw it.
Andrew, you too?
Yeah, same.
Yeah. See, so for me, freelance, I don't even know why I asked you that. Freelance, you just be there. Show up on time, 80%.
Yeah.
Be prepared, and then be ready to adjust. That was always my adapt, not adjust. Adapt. Be ready to adapt, and that was my trip. And so I'm working with younger people now because it's just I'd rather spend the time and get it right, you know, and also be around that.
There's an energy there too.
That energy, man. That energy, you know.
Hunger.
It's like hunger. That's it. I want to be around hunger. I'm hoping, get to something interesting so the young people who are listening, man, get something.
No, this is really I mean, I think anybody, even somebody who didn't know who you were before this interview, can hear why without hearing you play a note, can hear why you've had such traction. I mean, you're passionate. You keep talking about having an opinion about. I mean, you're checking all the boxes. I can imagine. You said that that you can be a pain in the ass. Like, I could see you being a pain in the ass if somebody hires you for a freelance gig where all they're looking for you to be is just a cog. But if they're looking for somebody, but you've also talked about knowing your place and all that, so it's like it's not like the bass trombone.
Well, the freelance thing did change. I mean, there was a period of time before cell phones where you had more time to get back to an employer, and so he was really going after his first choices. It got to a point with cell phones was they just spray everybody with or what do you call, not cell phones, beepers. And shit.
Yeah.
They just spray everybody, and at that point there was a kind of a thing. Well, anybody can do it. That it got coggy.
Yeah.
Got coggy. Things get coggy, man. You know, that's just that's why you always have to stay fresh. You know, whenever I see these athletes or news commentators doing acting jobs, I say that means acting is going someplace else. If already the majority can act the way it's appeals to people in general, time to move on.
It's evolving. Yeah.
Evolve, right? That's it. Yeah, right. Yeah. And one of my pet peeves, though, is that there still is this categorization of classical, jazz, commercial. It's very hard for me to think of myself as a freelance person when I played with and recorded with Duke Ellington or Pierre Boulez. It's very hard for me to say, well, wait a minute. I mean, I'm not saying I'm being a film. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there must be some kind of thing of why Palestrina was able to go secular, non-secular, why Bach was able to go Italian style, German, you know what I mean? And, Italy, man, wasn't just like around the corner back in the day. Italy was a fucking, excuse me.
I'm
sorry. All right. Italy was like weeks. So it was like separated, yet he was able to do that. They talk about Mozart, man, with Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, which is true. Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, I mean, he was, but it was really Johann Christian, who was in Italy, that rubbed Mozart the right way. You know what I'm saying, man? Because the Italians at that time, man, they were the computer people at the time, man. You know, they kept records. They were documentarians, man. They were so. Yeah, you always have to look for source of inspiration, man. You know, it's like.
You were just, I actually just pinged Lance saying we need to do the next spot, or he does, but I'm interrupting him because you just were talking about styles again. Something you said before was really profound, which was a while ago now, but you said that you don't think of music as different styles. You think of it as just climbing into the sound around you. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
That's literally how I do. I don't think we're listening. I think we are listening, but listening is the thing.
Yeah.
You know, listen to the mofo next to you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
Full stop. Yeah, that's the
it.
whole lesson.
That's it. You know, and
7 words. Listen to the mofo next to you.
is mofo
it.
one word or
Well, that's
2
what I
words?
want.
Oh, maybe it's 8. Maybe it's. I've always thought of it
I
as
like
one.
7. 7 has that Germanic,
Yeah, yeah, it's
better.
mystical thing. Oh, yeah, make it 7.
It's not the 8 deadly sins.
No, but that really is the thing. But you know, it's very interesting too. I mean, there did become a time in my life in my 50s where when I would go on the road with either an orchestra or a band, and I would come back to New York, I would be very easily to fit into the fold. But it was in my 50s when I was playing in Gil Evans' band. It was one of the few bands I'd go on the road with. I couldn't jump back into the pool as easily. I knew I had to make a statement about, all right, boom, that's it. This is who I am, you know. That kind of, you know, I mean, but still, I'm able to maintain. I mean, like I said, I'm getting called for all these, still getting called for these recording sessions, stuff like that. So, it's funny. I'm old enough now that I'm just too old. You know what I'm saying? You go through a period where you're the old guy. I'm beyond the old guy, bro. It's true, man. It's like you go through a period where you're the old guy, and then the people say, "Wow, this guy's still doing it." I mean, I think I'm still doing it. I'm praying I'm still doing it.
You're still doing it.
Yeah, you're still doing it as of now.
And it comes out the other side again.
Huh.
Because the old guys need some people to look up to.
Right.
There's old guys out. I mean, the old guys, they're in their 60s, I guess. I don't know where those.
I feel like I'm
I mean,
I'm
you know, with this
53.
COVID. Say that again?
I'm 53. I feel like I'm kind of going into old guy status.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Well, I'll tell you what really was the trip, man. When all these COVID people talking about the elderly, I'm beyond elderly, man. Elderly?
B-E.
They're talking about 65 years old. Elderly. God damn, I said.
I haven't been elderly in 4 presidential
Yeah,
administrations.
man. Elderly, man. It's all so good. It's just so wonderful out there, man.
Oh, your attitude is contagious.
The post. See, no, I got a vested personal interest in this. So, the old guy thing, you emerge. What I'm wondering if you're saying is you emerge out the other side of that with just a clearer sense of this is what I'm going to do. This is
Well, how old is old guy? 52.
I mean, I'm 53, and I definitely feel like
That's
I'm
when
looking in that.
when I really started going into like. My whole thing is like I'll compromise with everything but my soul. When I sense that it's affecting my soul, it's over. I leave it.
Boom.
Now I don't know the clear definition of that. You know what I mean? I'm not coming on like you know, but you know, it's like I don't give my loyalty to, except for a few instances, I don't give my loyalty to people who demand it. That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like.
If you got to convince me, we got a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what happened to me, I don't even look at it from a personal suggestion is, am I developing? And that's where the composition came in to help me.
see.
Don't forget, I was a newbie.
Right.
And that I had a little success with it, and even the newspapers, you know, that kind of shit. That said, okay, let's go. And not only that, when you write for yourself, you're less nervous when you perform.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Because your concept of why you're doing it is so much more clear. You know, I'm doing this just to get the concept of the piece, not even the notes. Forget the notes, man. I'm trying to get the concept of the piece across. You know, so playing, I'll practice my ass off and I'll play. So that helped me jump to another stage.
I see.
But when I think of the old guy coming through, you have to remember, man, that's why politicians repeat the same phrase over and over again. People really don't pay as much attention to you as you think they do. So when you enter the old guy phase, another aspect of it, I'm assuming, I'm only riffing now. I'm assuming is because they think you're like all the other old guys. Give me that lazy boy.
Yeah.
Give me that bud. You know what I'm saying? But when they wake up to the fact, wait a minute, this son of a bitch is still slugging out there, that's when you go beyond the old guy thing. I think. I'm just improvising now. I'm not 100% sure.
I dig. No, I like it.
Man, you're going to lose a lot of your customers with this conversation.
No,
I highly
man.
doubt it.
Yeah, I think actually the exact opposite.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of customers, Lance, why don't you tell David in case he
Holy
wants to?
Christ, you're using me as a lead-in. Go ahead, man.
that was
The
pretty
Howard
rough.
Stern show. Go, baby.
I'd like to take a moment to thank the Mary Papper School of Music at Duquesne University in beautiful and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which it is neither of those things today. So if you're interested in finding out the folks you can study with, groups you can play, and the opportunities, click on the link in the show notes and you'll find out all about the Mary Papper School of Music, one of our oldest and longest running sponsors. Thank you very much to Jim, what's his name, Nova, for making that possible. Do you know Jim Nova at all, Dave?
I know the name.
He does he'll hear this, so I feel bad because I'm going to say something nice about him. He plays in the Pittsburgh Symphony. He's very talented, not only as a player, but he does these incredible overdub recordings of
I do know
Star
him, and I
Wars
was
and
at
all
the
that stuff.
ITA when the whole brass choir did some Star Wars thing that
Yep.
he did, man. Now that was, you know,
He's amazing.
and of
And
course
they've
I
got
loved
soprano, trom-
Murray Crew. I love
Oh,
Murray.
yeah.
You know, so you know.
Lance, you know where I thought you were going? I thought you were going to say Jim doesn't know how to use the valves Nova. That's where I thought you were going.
I actually like Pittsburgh very much. I have what's the
good
name of
town.
that crafts thing?
Manchester Craftsman's Guild.
I've done a lot of lovely work there, man, with Slide Hampton,
beautiful
with Bob
place.
Mincer, with it's a lovely venue, man, and I always love going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's a cool town. Big
Yeah.
jazz history here, as well as
and Murray. I love
classical
Murray.
thing,
I
yeah.
worked with Murray when we were doing the Slide Hampton World of Trombones. We had a good time together, man. That was.
I think he's passed
he
4
passed.
years ago now.
Yeah, he passed. He passed. A lot of people mourned him. Man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
Well, and he ran the trombone choir. We'll take a little pause on Murray here. He ran the trombone choir forever. I mean, it was like, I think that Jim is only the third conductor of that. You know, there were the Shiner brothers at Duquesne, and Matty and
I know
Ed
those.
Shiner. Of
Course, I know those guys.
And so the trombone ensemble at Duquesne is actually, it's either the oldest or the second oldest trombone choir in the U.S. at a university. And so Jim,
you know, it's
has
wild,
picked it
man.
up.
I did a whole record of originals and Schubert stuff, recorded with the Washington Trombone Ensemble about 4 years ago. Got great reviews all over, but trombone choirs find it hard to incorporate that music into their material. I kind of wear that with Pride and with Paranoia. P&P. I'm P&P when that comes to Pride and Paranoia. You know, it's like...
That was the less popular Jane Austen book, wasn't it?
Right. Pride and Paranoia. And I don't know what comes first of all sometimes. You know. That's called And If All Were Dark, that CD. And, I wrote like 25, 30 minutes original stuff and then did Schubert, my versions, you know. And, I loved it. Those guys were so sweet. The Washington Trombone Ensemble. It's all the military guys.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Chris Brannigan, he's one of the... I don't know
Yep.
if you know those cats.
Yeah.
But,
Absolutely.
And I was knocked out. Stereophile is I think... here we go, ego. I think one of the things I love about my career... is that because of my relative obscurity, I have chance to continue to experiment. You know, it's that old Charles Ives thing about when they gave him the Pulitzer Prize awards for Boy Scouts, that kind of a thing, man. You know, it's that by having a relative slightly under the rug kind of a thing, I can just keep fooling around. And I find people who, you talk about Thomas Gonch, I play with him over there, you know, all these trumpet players, man. It's like...
Well, before we had you on the call, Andrew and I were talking about, in my mind, and maybe this is just because of my narrow ability to think about it, you and Gould and Sam each represent a kind of thinking and a kind of professionalism and a kind of work ethic that I really admire and hope that
expand.
I can... Yeah.
Expand on that. What do you mean? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, so Gould, I feel like Gould does interesting stuff and has always done interesting stuff at a very high level, and is creative and intelligent and just
curious.
Kind of goes and curious and musically curious. Mm-hmm. Sam, same sort of deal, like just like incredibly musically curious. Developed skills as a composer, as an arranger, as a producer, and it was not enough to just be awesome at playing the tuba, or not enough just to be awesome at, but to really kind of bring your entire self to everything you do.
You know, and to me, what the three of you all bring, or brought, is the
brah.
No, I mean, Sam. Sam ain't bringing anything at this point. So so may he rest in peace, and he would have laughed at that if anybody got offended. Yeah, he's like, hey, Hitz, I ain't bringing anything. I ain't bringing shit. Yeah, man. All three of you like have follow through on your curiosity. Because there's lots of people who like say play a style. I know you don't like that term necessarily, but
I don't mind. No. I don't mind that as long as it's inclusive.
Got it. But hang out primarily in one style and then have like a bunch of other interests, but maybe dabble. But it's like it feels like when you have an interest, like you go like as far as you possibly can or would ever even think you might want to, and all three of you did that, and that's
at times that has at times in my career that's had cataclysmic financial consequences. But it didn't stop me. Kind of, I'm married to my Ronnie for like 53 years, and this woman, man. When I started doing those exercises, I told you around 24. I can't tell whether it was my whole. I was busy like crazy. I can't tell if it was because I was even more arrogant then, or it was my playing style changed. But I lost everything. Literally lost everything, man. This woman said, "No, I'm going back to work, so you can stay home and practice. And you don't have to kiss any contractors' butts."
Wow.
Now, where do you find that, man?
Wow.
Ronnie Taylor, man. Gail Silverman Taylor, man. That's
awesome.
Leash. I got a lot of leash, bro.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of leash. So what was the question? Was there a question?
Just about Sam and Gould and
Gould is more intelligent, and Sam has more historical background.
Oh, that's nice.
Sam came from. Well, I don't know if Gould's more intelligent.
Don't let him do this.
Whoa, I tried not to laugh when you said that.
I can't believe I said that. All right, let's put it this way: he went to a liberal arts school.
You mean Jerry Gould? You mean Jerry Gould, right? Not Mark.
Yeah, right. No, Mark went to a liberal arts college. I mean, I confuse that sometimes with. I don't know, but Sam came from a family of musicians, Right. So and I came from a street thing. So we each found our way. We were each, curious mofos. Yeah, we were each curious guys, man. I love it. That's all, man. I love it. I'm continually making records. It's funny. Watch us. Here's an ego trip. On that Murray Crew thing with the Manchester Arts Guild. So Watchers was one of the soloists in the choir. We were all in the choir. We all stood up. But Watchers was one of the features. And he never said this to me before. In all the years I know him, and we became very good friends. We were in the business together, but we never played one-on-one like I did with Irby and guys like that. Irby really, but we were on a bus tour together in Japan, sitting in the back, of course, and we started talking about aperture. And when he understood that, I understood aperture, because that was for me, that was the miracle of my practicing. We became very good friends. And years later, he said, "You know what? Oh, shit, I'm so sorry." He said, "You know why I like you playing more than the other cats?" I said, "No, Bill, why?" He says, "Because you can play what you don't hear." Oh, man. I heard that. I said, "Wait, what the?" But that's kind of interesting, because I noticed when I would play those scales I was talking to you about, I would play them literally from 4 to 6 hours a day. And and it's long tones, basically. You're just interrupting long tones. And what happens is, your cranium is, I'm getting metaphysical now, but your cranium isn't one solid piece of
Right.
bone.
It's like tectonic plates, kind of.
Right, there's plates. When you're blowing for 4 hours long tones and your body is exuding energy from you don't know where, your head opens up. And that's when the spirit comes in. So you let the spirit. So when I put those two and two things, but you don't hear, of course, when your head opens up. Gil Evans and I were walking down. I got thrown out of a rest. Oh shit! I'm going. All right. We were celebrating Gil Evans' son's 21st birthday at an Italian restaurant in Venice, and I didn't like the manager of the band. He was a British cat, and he and I had a rub. Anyway, he's walking past my table, and he accidentally knocked over a glass of water on me. So somehow, when I went to his table, I knocked over a glass of water on his table. Then he come back, and so anyway, it wound up. I took a pitcher of water and just sprayed the place, man. With it, The boys felt I should get out real quick because I screwed up some of the the paintings. Yeah, so they walked me out real quick. Gil Evans comes behind me. Something I'll never forget. Wait, Dave, he called me Tucker. I'll tell you why in a minute. Tucker, wait for me. And he and I were walking through Venice together that night. And he laid this on me. He said, Gil Evans once told me, this is Gil Evans talking to me, Duke Ellington once told me that if you leave yourself open, you'll never know who will come along and pull your coat left. Gil Evans was told by Duke Ellington, if you leave yourself open, you never know who will come along and pull your coat left. And that's your head open. And I'll tell you something else. When you practice all day, you don't practice all day to perfect things. You practice all day to that. And I found that I became a samurai. Oh, shit. Forgive me for that, man. No. I became a samurai because the sound, when samurai can fight in the back as well as he can in the front, that's what sound does. When you practice all day, and you figure out the exact balance between diaphragm support and articulation, that's when you move air in the room. When your articulation is stronger than your diaphragm support, you're overblowing. When your diaphragm support is like, oh man, I'm philosophizing here. But that's how I feel about it all. And so I practice all day just to see where it goes. And I think Sam would agree with that.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sam, he would agree with that.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know the cat and speak to the cat, he would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, you're practicing to discover stuff, to experience stuff, not just to perfect.
That's right. And even when you're practicing, there are times that I just don't feel like playing music, so I'll just practice fundamentals all day. That's the same thing, believe it or not.
Right.
You determine just how much energy you need to put into each of these things. It's that's for me anyway, on a personal level. But you have to have the freedom to do that.
Well, we could go on for hours with you, literally go on for hours. This has flown by. We need to wrap this, although we're going to have David hang out for the bonus episode. If you would like to hear more with David Taylor and with Mark Gould and with Sam Palafian and a bunch of people and Julie Landsman who have already been mentioned, there's bonus episodes with all of those people at patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. You can help support the show and make more of them possible. So please hang out for just another few minutes, David, for us to record that. And Lance, how much fun was this? My goodness.
All the fun.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Well, you guys are very sweet.
Oh, you're the best. Yeah, we don't heap praise on the people who are only fine at the end. It's not like we just you're this. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't embarrass me, so keep heaping, kids.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you smack me right between the eyes with some really powerful stuff that I really appreciate.
I just love it. I took class with Luciano Berio for a year at Juilliard. And I don't remember anything he taught me, but I do remember that he smiled and laughed and loved talking about what he was talking about.
Yeah, there you have it.
That's what I remember. And you cats are like that, too.
Yeah, for sure. I just heard I'm like Barrio. That's all I took away from this interview. All right, David, you're the best. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And that's going to do it for this episode of The Brass Junkies. Dude,
I'm like I don't know what to do. It was so. He put me off a couple times too because he would say, "What do you mean by that?" I was like, "Uh-oh, what did I mean by that?" I asked the question and I thought I knew what I meant, but now now I question my own reality. Like I don't know what I mean by that. I want my mommy.
Is there an anecdote that sums up David Taylor as like the human, the artist, the musician better than that when he was 24 years old that he asked Bud Herseth to record a Bach duet album with him?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like, I love it, right? I love just having the audacity to do that.
The kid's got moxie, see?
It's like, and it would have been cool as hell if that had happened. I mean, it's just like, he didn't ask so that he could tell like two rando podcast hosts when like 50 years later that that he had done so. It's like he's fearless.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it, and unapologetically him.
Yeah, and I like he's reached elder statesman status, but he's not having that. Like he's so prolific. Yes. I ain't got time to talk about this. Like I'm too busy actually doing the thing.
Yeah.
That was really inspirational. It gave me hope as what did he say? I'm getting to old man status, and then he's like transcended, and just think that there was light at the end of that tunnel, that there was that much creativity and possibility, which shouldn't be a surprise. Sammy from Miami did the same thing, and
Gould. We talked about that.
Gould, yeah.
Remember we talked about the common thread there, which is curiosity, right? Yeah. Sam was curious until the day he died.
Right.
I hope it is far in the future, but David Taylor is going to be curious about the world around him and his role in it until the day he is no longer with us. It's just like that's just, I don't think it could be any other way. Same with Gould, same with Julie Landsman that we mentioned in in the interview and in the intro. I mean, he's been sitting on like on an all Ewald album that he recorded over 10 years ago, and it's finally coming. I mean, it's just the sheer amount of stuff that he's doing, and you can hear him talk about his love of rehearsing, of really getting into the music, and it's all genuine. Like you can hear it. It's like he just has like a burning desire to do the thing. It's
writing and playing and recording and collaborating and soloing and all of the ings.
How about the fact that he didn't have a record player until he was 16? And he talked about how that was like he didn't use the word impediment, but that that was his style early in his career. He said again, I'm totally paraphrasing, but it took him a little while to catch up because he just hadn't heard it. It's like it's like if you've never heard
his ears
French.
Were that well refined.
I know.
Without
it's
that,
it's like if you've never heard French spoken. It's like I don't care how much you read about how it's pronounced. You then hear, he in New York City where he was hanging, it was like the equivalent of getting dropped into Montreal and just like figure it out, And he came out like sounding fluent faster than any human should be able to.
And how about the bonus episode?
the bonus episode was legendary as well. He shared why Gil Evans called him Tucker, which is hilarious. I love talking to people like Taylor because all of his stories are name dropping, but that's because that's who he's been hanging with for the last 60 years. So it's
right.
I mean.
He gets a pass.
Same with Sam, and and Sam made no, you hang with Sam enough, and like all he does is just kind of like reference, like, oh, that the time that I was, hanging with blah blah, and it's just
Bernadette Peters or Pink Floyd or Bernstein. It's like,
yes.
Wait a minute,
yeah, exactly. Huh? So he's like, oh yeah, Gil Evans had a nickname for me. Of course he did. Yeah, I was assuming that Gil Evans had a nickname for you. The fact that his favorite country is the exact to visit on tour is the exact same as ours, which is wild. And the only regret of his life, which was I thought
Uruguay.
Really,
who would have thought Uruguay?
Really and you know what I think my favorite part of the bonus episode was that when he said something to the effect of that he's cautious to like he goes out of his way to preserve failure. That was like the way that he put that would in terms of like he preserves failure. So it's not even just like failure is important. Like he carves out space in his life intentionally at this point in time. When you come on something like this and the two of us are just gonna like wax poetic about how amazing you are, the dude doesn't need to do any more failing. Like I mean he does because of his constitution. Like he has to, right? But like he could totally just do what he does well now and everybody would just heap praise on him and then he could ride off into the sunset. The dude carves out space artistically to be in situations where he's going to fail because that's what keeps him moving forward.
And that he's actively trying to instill that in his students. I mean, he understands. He understands.
Yep. Yeah. Really, really good stuff. Yeah. This was one of those. I love all the interviews because we only choose people that are interesting. So I love them all, and they all start here, and then some are like really, and then there's just like there's a few that are at this level for me where
I think so too.
Yeah, where I could have talked to him for hours.
Yeah,
hours. This is really good stuff. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Well, if anybody enjoyed it half as much as you and I, then they enjoyed it quite a bit.
And you can check out the bonus episode by joining Patreon if you want to. If you don't want to, you could still do it.
Patreon.com/TheBrassJunkies. That's also true. That is also true. Sign up someone who hates brass and hates podcasts and hates us. If they hate brass and they hate podcasts, it won't take them long to hate us. So, well, we've heard from some people who love brass and love podcasts and hate us. So, hi. Anyway, thank you very much. And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.